There we go. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, lovely people. I am really looking forward to having this conversation today because Jill and I were just chatting along in the back room before we came live here. And we actually had this little conversation about how we connected. And I saw a really beautiful post that Jill did on LinkedIn. And I just felt so compelled about this and what Jill is doing that I had to reach out to her and invite her to come along and yeah, speak with me about Max's mission. But before we delve into that, Jill, would you do us the honor to introduce yourself to our audience, please? Welcome.
Yes. Hello, I'm Jill Wijangco from Chicago, Illinois. I am the co-founder and executive director of Max's Mission, a local nonprofit that helps survivors of suicide loss.
Yeah, it is such a beautiful thing. I have to say, I want to quickly do a sidestep to that because we met on LinkedIn. That I see more and more really personal posts on LinkedIn that are business related, that are related to charities, to big missions. And yours is such a beautiful mission. And obviously, it doesn't have the most happiest background, let's put it that way. And I would like to know a little bit about the background to the mission before we start talking about what you actually do and how people can get involved. Can you share in your words, Jill, whatever you like to share, whatever you're comfortable with? I promise you, I give that space to you. I would love to hear a little bit about your son, Max, and what
Sure.
happened. Yeah.
Yes, Max is our middle child. We have three boys, and
Mm,
we lost him to suicide at the young age
mm,
of 15 in 2022. So after our loss, we felt very isolated and alone and didn't know where to go for help. And we quickly discovered that there was nowhere to go for help.
yeah.
You know, um, we of course could find a therapist, but other than that, there was nothing, no support
Mm,
groups, no resources, no anything.
yeah.
So we had the idea, along with the encouragement of friends, to start a nonprofit and
Hmm.
to do with that nonprofit what wasn't done for us. So
Yeah.
to help survivors of suicide loss, we are a very, very high risk group that is largely ignored.
Mm,
So that's what we've done. The first year we didn't do a whole lot with it.
mm,
Obviously, we were grieving very, very hard that first year. We'll
yeah.
be grieving the rest of our life, but we've definitely picked up momentum the last 2 years and have just done a lot in the community.
Mm. Can you share just a little bit about what Max was like as a person? I really like when I do these podcasts to speak about the person who they actually were rather than just the loss, because I really
Yeah.
love keeping their spirit alive and keeping their story alive. So share a little bit about who Max was as a person.
Max was amazing. He was
Mm,
smart, he was fast and quick and good at every sport that he ever did. But in his last 2 to 3 years of life, he definitely narrowed in on skateboarding and snowboarding.
mm,
And he was excellent at both and had no fear of anything and
yeah.
was just so intuitive and could read people and animals better than most people at the age of 65. He really understood people.
Yeah.
He his friends actually just 3 weeks ago hosted their second annual snowboarding contest in honor of Max, and it's just a
I love
testament
that.
to yeah to how much he's still remembered and missed, and
Mm,
that community is never going to forget him. But Max was, in a nutshell, like larger than life,
yeah.
larger than life, his personality.
I love to hear that. It's really beautiful. I am very touched by what you said before, like it is such a taboo topic, in particular when it comes to suicide. You had some not so happy experiences with podcasts where people ask questions that are highly inappropriate. I'm not going to go there. I told you that. This is not my intention at all. I want to talk about why is the topic so taboo? Why can't we talk about something that unfortunately connects a lot of people, and yet the word isolated came up first, So that to me is a really big mission because I like my mission is to bring more lightness into grief. My mission is to change the narrative of grief, and my mission with this podcast is certainly to unsilence grief. So can we talk a little bit about that? where's that all coming from? This whole taboo topic. It almost seems like people treat it as if it was contagious. Oh, if we talk about it, it could happen to me. Or I don't know. What was your experience with that, where you felt that isolation coming out?
Well, exactly what you were saying. Like people don't know what to say, so they don't say
Mm,
anything, you know?
yeah.
And with suicide, I do feel like people think it's contagious. But interestingly
Mm,
enough, I had a conversation at that snowboarding event for Max, and I was talking to a man there who had lost his grown son to cancer. And
mm,
he said the same thing to me. He said after he lost his son that he lost some friends because
yeah.
they weren't reaching out, they weren't checking in. And he said it's
Yeah.
almost like they felt it was contagious. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh my gosh, people who lose loved ones to other reasons other than cancer feel that, or other than suicide, feel that way too.
Mm,
I never would have thought someone who lost a child to
yeah.
cancer would lose friends, but grief just in general and losing people, particularly at a young age, I think
Mm,
it scares people. It really,
yeah.
really scares people, particularly with suicide. I think, like, if you lose a child,
Mm,
parents are really scared. They're very
yeah.
scared, you know? So it comes from a place of fear and ignorance, right? Not
Mm,
knowing better.
yeah.
How can we do better? You know, I
Mm,
just did a television interview today, and the lady asked me, you know, can you give me some advice on what to say? Like, and I
yeah.
said, anything. I said, that's my
Yeah.
advice, anything. Because if you worry too much about saying the right thing, you're going to
Mm,
say nothing, or it's
yeah.
going to sound so scripted. I told her, I said, just say anything because you
Yeah.
can't go wrong. But you also, this is the tricky part with grief. You have to be willing as a friend to sit with them in their
Mm,
grief and not fix it. You can't fix
yes.
it. You
Yes.
can't change
That they're
it.
not fixing it. I think that's the most important part here. I I experienced rather deep loss twice in my life on completely different, like actually more than that, but those two really significant people in my life, my dad and my husband. And I remember I was 21, my dad passed away, and nobody said anything. Exactly what you say, you know, nobody said anything, nobody. And they all said to me like a year later when we sort of reconnected, they were like, oh, I didn't know what to say. And I felt so isolated. I felt like, that I was the only child in the entire world that lost a dad. Of course, I wasn't, but that's how I felt. And then later with my husband, I had experienced grief. I had experienced what not to do. So I knew that I wanted to change all of that for my boys and hold space for them, that they didn't have to go through what I went through. So I think we learn a lot from experience. And when people say to me, oh, I don't know what that feels like, or don't make comments about, I often think to myself, well, I'm glad you don't, because it
Hmm.
means that you haven't experienced it.
Sure.
So I think that whole not knowing what to say, my philosophy on that is I'd like to hear your opinion on that, because I often say to people, you don't have to say anything. You can just sit with me. I think it's the avoidance in that not saying anything that is the worst part, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The
Mm.
avoidance and not saying anything or not checking in or the friends that you just
Yeah,
totally lose.
yeah.
Yeah. There, I think so many people are afraid of saying the wrong thing and that they're going to
Mm.
make you mad, they're going to hurt you more, or they might say
Yeah.
something and you're crying. And that's a message I try to
Mm.
convey to you. It's okay if you
Yeah,
say something and your person you're with starts crying. That's okay. That's like part of the grief journey. You know, that's
absolutely.
how we actually
Absolutely.
help.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know,
And it
with
can
grief,
happen so out of the blue, right? Like sometimes a question hits you completely unexpectedly. Like I'm happy to share this. It happened to me yesterday afternoon. I was laying on the chiropractor's table because I did my back in, and he asked me, I don't want to say the wrong question, the right question at the right time. And I just burst into tears on the chiropractor table. It was like so unexpected. I didn't see it coming. And he was so beautiful. He just said, it's okay, Marie, just cry. And that was so beautiful that he didn't feel awkward around it. So he didn't make me feel awkward around it. And I was laying on the table sobbing while he was doing his treatment on me. So completely unexpected, like sometimes it really
beautiful,
hits us out of the blue. And I thought I couldn't have been with a better person that just held space for me. It was incredible.
right?
Um, how and when did you actually come up with the idea, let's do something about this? Max's mission. How and when was that born? How soon after That
it
fast.
was born really, really soon. One of
Mm,
Max's friends from the school that he went to sent me a message, and he said he wanted to start a GoFundMe to raise money for Max's funeral, which was like the sweetest
mm,
thing ever. But I messaged him
wow.
back right away and said that, we financially could afford to pay for Max's funeral. And then it
Mm,
got me to thinking that people typically at funerals, they donate money, and I thought, well,
mm,
what are we going to do with that money?
yeah.
And I looked at some of the bigger suicide prevention
Mm,
organizations, and I thought, not knocking any of those organizations,
yeah.
but none of those organizations helped us, and
Mm,
I didn't even know they existed until after Max died.
yeah.
So I thought, why would I give them money? And then I just
Mm,
thought, maybe we could start our own." And
yeah.
then luckily we have a lawyer in the neighborhood who
Mm,
she was very encouraging, and she offered to start the 501(c)(3 for us. So that's kind of how it was all born. But then,
hmm,
so the 501(c)(3 was formed June, March, April, so 3 months after Max passed. But then we didn't really do anything for a year.
yeah.
Because obviously, our lives were consumed with grief almost every day.
Yeah.
And the last 2 years we've been doing more. But I'm not sure if that kid, if he had never reached out, if he had not reached out to me, we didn't
Mm,
have the lawyer in the neighborhood. You know how kind of all those
yeah.
dominoes,
I
it
love
just
it.
everything aligns. And
Yeah.
now it's given me such a purpose, and such a driving force with, honoring Max and helping people in the community. I can't imagine like if I hadn't have started this.
Yeah. I Tell me, Jill, how much do you feel that Max's mission has helped you heal through that?
I would say like tremendously. Like if
Mm,
I like the connections that I have made through this nonprofit have
yeah.
been so tremendously valuable to my healing, because these connections have helped me to form a community of
Yeah.
lost survivors, and that
Mm,
community spreads all over the world. I mean,
mm,
there are people that I've Zoomed with all over the world, but also
yeah.
some of my very best friends that I have now are
Mm,
through the nonprofit work that I'm doing. And not all of
wow.
them are even here in Illinois.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know where I would be without that community,
Mm,
because to feel isolated after a loss by suicide, and like you're the only one and you don't know other
mm,
loss survivors, is the worst feeling in the world.
yeah.
Because people
I
don't, yeah, go ahead.
No, no, no.
Oh, I was just gonna say, you can have the greatest friends in the world, but like, and I do have some really great friends, but
Mm,
nobody can truly understand this loss
yeah.
unless they've experienced it. So it's just invaluable, to have those people in your life. It's also
I
invaluable
agree.
to have people that have not had a significant loss, like
Mm,
you in your life too, because sometimes you just want to have
yeah.
fun, and you want
Yeah.
to not be in your loss all day long.
Yeah. And it's not that you can't have fun with people who've experienced a loss, but I know exactly what you mean. Like
Right.
we just had a really nice girls' day out with a few of my previous clients that have now turned into friends, and it was just so beautiful. And that day was full of laughter and tears and everything. Like there was the depth of conversation that you go to is just such a different level because you've been there, you've been in the depth and you've been through it. And we walked through the grief together, which was incredible. And to have that connection now, I I really I don't know. There are so many things and so many ways where we could take this right now. I do want to talk about Max's mission and how people can get involved and what do you actually do with it? Tell us about Max's mission. Somebody who's never heard about that before. What do you do with it? How do you help
Sure.
people? Yeah.
So the three key initiatives that we continually always have going are the Say Their Name project, and that's during the month of May and September, and that's where we
Hmm.
feature a life lost to suicide every day of the month,
Mm,
and we ask the same 4 questions. So
yeah.
that has had an overwhelmingly positive response. That is all
Hmm.
about raising awareness about
Hmm.
suicide, that it can happen to anyone, that it tends to
Mm,
touch the most beautiful, talented,
hmm.
intelligent people out there,
Hmm.
showcasing that. So people who might have stereotypes in their head about, who it erases all of those. And it also is about who that person still is to their loved ones and
Yeah.
not about how they ended their life.
Yeah. Oh my God, I
And
love that. I
that's
love
not,
that.
yeah, and it's the same four questions. They're very basic questions. That has had an overwhelmingly positive response. So that's every year
Please
in
share.
May and September. And those 2 months are significant because it's Suicide Awareness Month and
Yeah.
Mental Health Month. So that's why I choose those 2 months. I've made so many amazing connections through that too. People all over the US and all over the world have
Yeah.
submitted. And some of them I get to know fairly well because I'll usually email back and forth with additional
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's been amazing. I
Yeah.
actually have a, I ha had a book made from my first month. So here's the book.
Oh,
And,
that's a
and
task
then
in itself. I
each,
love it. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So anyways, but I mean, if you look me up on social media, you can see it, but so say their
You
name.
don't have to look far. We have all the links in the show notes after this, so
Oh,
we'll
wonderful,
definitely be
wonderful.
conducting. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I
The
want to. Yeah,
other, so that's one of our three things we always have going. The other one is I host a monthly support group, and
yeah,
it's here in the area. I don't Zoom. It's just local in
yeah,
person, and
yeah.
it's for anyone who has had a loss by suicide.
Hmm.
And that's been very successful. We try to mix it
Yeah.
up. We did yoga in November with a yoga
Mm.
therapist. We had an art therapist last month, and we did
No, I love
art. So
that.
we always are trying to do different things, keep it interesting and our
Mm.
healing. And yeah, sorry, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
I'm
Actually,
talking too much. Yeah, go.
I wanted to actually step back, so maybe we come
Yeah,
back and
yeah,
you'll find it again. But I wanted to
yeah.
step back to the four questions. You mentioned that you ask the same four questions every time.
Yes,
Can you share those four questions with us?
yes. I'm just going to read from here. So
Sure.
okay. What do
Yeah.
you want the world to know about your loved one?
Oh, I
Uh,
like that.
what were your loved one's hobbies?
Hmm.
What do you do to honor your loved one? And what is
Hmm.
one word to describe your loved one?
Oh, I love that. I was going through a list myself while you were reading that. I'm like, oh, that makes me happy already. That is so beautiful because I think it's exactly what you said, say their name. It's so important to share these stories. And till this day, like my boys are now 17 and 15. They were 10 and 8 when Rob passed away. And I talk about Rob as, as if it's completely normal. I don't force it. I don't like I have to talk about him every day. However it comes up in conversation, I'm not like, oh, I shouldn't talk about it. Just make it natural. Make it natural. So
Right.
so many people feel that whole um I don't know, I can only imagine that you would go through the same thing, but in particular in the early days, people were in this, oh, if I don't mention him, then it's like as if I had forgotten about him. If I mention him, then I might upset her, and people never knew if they should or shouldn't. And I always said to them, please continue talking about him. Please do
Say their
so. And in
name.
particular to my boys, I want you to talk to my boys about it. And I have to say, like just like you mentioned, that one friend of Max's, that reached out to you, who knows what would have happened if he hadn't. And there was one friend of Rob's, I'm going to name him Darren. He actually wrote a letter to the boys about their father.
Oh, that's so.
I was so touched. Like his wife gave it to me. It's like, oh, Darren didn't know if you would or wouldn't. And he had it all folded up in her back pocket of her jeans. I still remember. And I said, I have no words how much that means to me. I took it, I read it to them, I kept it for them. I find that so special when we have those things. And your four questions, Jill, they are such a beautiful conversation starter to do this. I think that is something that I would like to adopt as well. I think it's important that we have these conversations. And yeah, so there was one other question that I had, and then I lost my train of thoughts, but it doesn't really
We have
matter.
so much to talk about, like in a
Yeah,
short. The other
yeah,
thing I've noticed with this project is a lot of people that submit their loved one. I notice they're reposting on their social media pages too. So I think it
hmm,
opens a lot of conversations with them and family members and friends that maybe haven't
yeah,
talked about their person in a long
yeah,
time.
yeah,
And it's all good. It's all good.
yeah,
Like this is a chance to do the obituary that like you really wanted
mm,
to do but weren't able to do. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like truly like honoring your person and being able to give it a lot of thought.
yeah,
So only it's shown to the entire world, like
yeah.
whoever wants to view it.
Do you feel that Max is sort of guiding you through all of that, through the mission
Oh,
that
a
you're
hundred
running?
percent, a
Yeah,
100%, for
yeah,
sure. I do believe in signs. I do believe, yeah, he's
I
he's
love
he's
it.
here.
Do
Hmm.
you want to share some of those signs, or is it too personal for you? Either is okay.
Oh, I mean, you know what? It's weird. Like when I hear other people's stories about signs, I'm always like,
Mm.
really wasn't a sign. So I feel like, you know what I
But
mean? I feel
as long
like
as it is assigned to you, I think that's always the most important thing. It doesn't matter what other
that's
people
true.
think or say about that, because it is
That is
obviously a personal connection, a personal sign for you that only you get. And I've talked about it sometimes, thinking, oh, what might people think about that? But it matters to me, and that's all that matters, really.
right, right. So
Mm,
true. So true.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll pass on the signs. I mean, you're probably going to be like, oh, those
that's
weren't
okay.
really. Yeah, I mean, okay, I'll tell you one. One day I woke up and it was near his, it was last year. It was near his 2 year loss anniversary. And I
Yeah.
was just like, oh, I need a sign. Like I want a sign. I was going for a walk at a prairie near our house that day, and they have a picnic shelter there. And I'd left a rock there. I paint rocks and I
Hmm.
leave messages of
I love
hope on
that.
the back of rocks with my Instagram handle. And I was like, I
Nice.
wonder if my rock's been picked up. And I walked over there and there was a really colorful rock and graffiti style lettering. I've never found anyone else's rock before, but there
Yeah.
it was. And guess what the word was on the rock in graffiti style lettering? It was so beautiful. Love. And
Oh,
I mean, like
oh, I just
it
had
was
goosebumps all over my body. It's like,
it was
wow,
so close to
I
his
love it.
2 year loss anniversary. And
Yeah.
I that morning, I don't often just like have these conversations in my head, but I had that morning
Yeah.
where I was desperately hoping to have some sort of connection with him,
Yeah.
and I don't ask for that often. So I was just like, oh my
Mm,
goodness. So that rock is very special to me. Of course, I'm
yeah.
like, it's my rock. Like I was meant to have
Oh, I
this.
love it. I hope
That's
you
just
still have
one.
it somewhere.
I do.
Did you take
I
it?
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. What a
Yeah.
gift. I really love that. Yeah, for me, it's always been numbers, how Rob connected with me. And I told this story many, many times before, but it was a number 126 that kept showing up all the time. And I woke up at 126 every morning, 1:26 a.m. And I'm like, oh, I was doing my head in, until a friend pointed out that, well, Rob passed on the 12th of June, 126. And I was like, oh my God, I didn't see it. And ever since, and it's been 6.5 years for us, I see the numbers 126 or 12 and 6 all the time,
Wow.
everywhere. And at really significant times where I'm like, of course. And I feel like he's always with me. And of course, there are people that say, oh, it's what you focus on, is what you see. But I mean, you know, I don't need to explain. You get it.
Yeah, I know. I gotcha.
Yeah. So Max's mission, is that a family mission? Is it you driving it? Who's behind all that?
So it's my husband and I. We co-founded it, but he does work full time and he travels.
Hmm.
So I have a little more time to devote to it.
Yeah,
It seems like a lot of our stuff that we do host typically is a little more slanted with more females coming. We do have males
yeah,
come to a lot of our
hmm,
stuff, but I'd say it's probably at least 80% females that we
yeah.
would like it to change. Men deserve support too. It's just like getting them there.
Big shout
But
out, men who want to get involved.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
But my husband's the tech end of things, so
Hmm.
he's been very, very helpful with all of that. So
Awesome.
yeah, this
How many
definitely.
people are involved in the mission?
There's 8 of us on our
Hmm.
board, so it's my husband and I and 6 others. Yeah, and they're
Hmm.
all of them are people that I knew before Max passed. So it's
Mm.
mostly friends and some people in the mental health space.
Yeah. Jill, what do you need? What does Max's mission need? How can we support you? People listening to this, how can we get involved?
That what we really need the most help with is just people getting the word out and
Hmm.
talking about suicide. And
Yeah.
here locally in our community, I don't know how many people actually from Naperville are going to be listening to this. We live like outside of Chicago. We need
Hmm.
more volunteers. That's actually what
Yeah.
we need. We need more volunteers for the events that we're hosting. And
Hmm.
the last thing I wanted to tell you about that's an ongoing thing that we do at Max's Mission is delivering baskets to newly bereaved families, and those are full of
Yeah.
useful
Mm.
items. I have a basket here just to kind of show you.
Yeah,
So
please
this
do
is what
share a
a
little bit about that
typical
because that
basket
touched me so
looks
much.
like.
Yeah.
But then we also have a resource guide that's got, recommendations for local therapists and support
Hmm.
groups, all of that.
Hmm.
So just even people for like basket delivery or people in
Yeah.
our community that can help let us know when there's
Hmm.
suicides in the community, because we only
Yeah.
know to deliver these baskets when people let us know that someone has passed.
Yeah. Of
Really,
course.
it's just more human help, and then if there's people in other
So you
parts of the
don't
world.
need any special training or any special background to be able to help, right?
No, oh gosh, no, just a passion for helping. So yeah, if
Yeah.
there's people outside of this area that want to help, I definitely encourage them to get in touch with me and we could
Mm.
find things that they could do from far away. That would be
Yeah.
wonderful. But yeah, we're doing pretty well right now, just more volunteers locally.
I love that. Yeah. I truly hope that people in your area hear that and reach out. And as I said before, we'll definitely be sharing all the links in the show notes as soon as the live is done. I always go back in and put all the links that you would like to share so people can actually get in touch with you. Um, your your other two kids, how old are they now?
It's 21 and 15.
Wow. Are they involved in Max's mission as well? Or is it more
Not
like
not
your
really.
husband?
They're
Yeah.
busy. Yeah, they're busy with their own lives.
Yeah. Good. And so it should be. I really love that.
Yeah.
Jill, is there anything that you would like to say to people, especially those who have been affected by the loss of a loved one, by a loss of a loved one through suicide? Is there anything that you would like to say to them in particular when they are at the full on beginning stages in the depth of their grief? Um, what is it that you would like to say to them?
I You're not alone. There are
Yeah,
so many of us, unfortunately, out there. There are so many of us out there. Find your people, over time. Find
yeah,
your people because they will help you to heal.
mm,
And it's not time doesn't heal you, it's what you do with your time.
oh,
And if you
yes,
spend your time well and you work really, really, really hard, you will
mm,
be able to see light again.
yeah,
You will be able to see the light. And I really wish those words had been spoken to me early on, because when
mm,
you are very fresh after a loss, it's unimaginable the magnitude of grief that you
yeah,
go through. And
yeah,
having someone who's been through that and is, still going through it a couple years out, it
mm,
just be really helpful. So
yeah,
my other thing I would say is that, if you are a couple of years out and you're in a good place, do whatever you can to get involved if you're in a good enough
yeah,
space to do it and help other fresh suicide loss
yeah.
survivors. And sometimes there's
I
people that
agree
that
because,
are 10 years out that still need that
yeah,
help. Yeah,
yeah.
sorry.
No, no, 100%. I just wanted to highlight that. I agree with you because whenever we reach out and help other people who haven't gone as far as we have yet, it also always helps us on our healing journey. I feel this whole thing is such a domino effect, like when people often ask me, how could you start this movement only months after Rob passed? I know how much it helped me on my own healing journey. And I felt I was only ever like a step or two ahead of those who I helped. And that was such an ongoing effect where I felt like we were constantly taking people with us who hadn't gone that far yet and show them that it is possible, that it is possible that you heal through that. And healing doesn't happen in isolation. It really happens in community. And I find that so, so beautiful that you have started this community, that you have started that in Max's honor, and therefore also always keep his name alive, his mission alive. And that was obviously to live a really purposeful and happy life. You said he was larger than life, and now look what you've created with that. So I think the name is more than suitable. I love that. And I love that you came here to share it with us today. So, anyone who's been listening in, no matter if you're here with us live or if you watch the replay, if you get value out of that, if you know somebody who's affected, please do share this podcast. Please do share the link to Max's mission. As I said, we'll have all that in the show notes. You can reach out to Jill. And if you like what you see, then please subscribe for our weekly updates on Unsilence Grief. Jill, is there anything else that you would like to say before we go?
Oh, just thank you for giving me this opportunity to talk about the
Yeah.
nonprofit, just loss in general. It's a
Mm,
fascinating topic.
yeah. And thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing such a personal story. And thank you for everything you do. So, everyone, this is Jill and Marie signing off. I do need my glasses to find the button. I tried so many times without it. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much for being here.